actually, you've said there's a formula that determines how we go, but it looks complicated, and, and I'm not going to get into the intricacies of it, but I'm sure we can patch the image of it just to show people that this is what is followed as the cost is determined. So who are you saying does not follow this formula that people can see right now?
Let me mention the formula, because in case it's still clear in my mind, and I'm sure if it can be projected, it would be good. Yeah. But now, for example, for the fuel cost charge, they normally say it's 1 over 1 minus L. The L is the 19.9. Because it's supposed to say whatever figure you are going to get into the bracket is supposed to be multiplied to factor in the losses. I normally challenge that, first of all. But then the other thing that follows is the C1. It's called as a CI, which is the cost for each kg of the fuel that has been used in that generation. So CI, remember, is normally having the VAT component. When we are it's being used in the formula.
Yes.
Then from there we have GI. GI are the units that have been generated for that plant, and it is normally measured at the generation point. So it doesn't warrant for the losses to be factored in, because they have not been lost already. It is at the generation point. Then there is the S. The S is the specific fuel consumption which has been determined during the initial signing of contract, that this plant will be consuming 222 grams of HFO per kilowatt hour.
And within this formula, there are aspects that are gazetted. So
they are normally, those 3 figures are gazetted. Then you have the power imported, then you have the power exported, then it's normally divided by the total generation in the country. What is new there? I mean, all of that has been gazetted. So you just plug in those values and then tell us what is the value you're getting.
So is there a problem of the formula not being followed, and who is to blame?
I can squarely say that the people to blame are the people who gazette those values and the people who gazette the fuel cost charge on our bids, and that is EPRA.
Okay.
So EPRA, I don't know where they get. I am personally I'm convinced that EPRA Director General does not act within his power. I mean, sometimes I think he's normally told what to do. Because, for example, now that we blocked the 16% on fuel, he went ahead and added the 8%. The way I know him is my friend. I told you all of those people are my friends, and we normally discuss one-on-one. But the way I know him, much as he is a lawyer by profession, of course, there's a position that's supposed to be held by an engineer. But, well, because he already has advisors below him, I am not sure it's the advisors who told him, please add this 8% even if the court has blocked it.
Okay.
I'm not sure that is a decision that was internal. It must have been external. So even whatever they normally do at that point, it must be some law from above.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned in the 4 producers, there's the independent power producers.
Yes.
Help us understand, are they a force unto themselves? Are they a cartel, if I could use that word? Because there is a lot of the proceeds that goes to them.
Yes.
It seems like a private club of people who knew there's a good deal here and managed to negotiate something that would be sustainable for them in the long run, at the expense of the Kenyan consumer.
Definitely. We normally have a problem of calling people who we don't understand cartels, but I still have the same feeling that I should call them cartels. What happened, there are some people who, we said among the 4 groups, which is Kenyan, and then the GOK, Government of Kenya, then RELEC, and then independent power producers. Among the independent power producers, who are 26, remember, it's only 6 that take money for diesel. Now, those people are normally paid even when they are not producing power, because remember their contract said, what if I set up a plant here, and then there is no power to generate? What do I do? And I have some loan. Yes. They said that they were told, no problem, we'll still be paying you your 6 shillings that we have agreed. But every time you generate extra, now tell us how much you have generated, so that we can tell you, you can charge us the fuel that you have used. Now that bit of calculating the fuel is what is not normally followed. Those people who are 6 now, there is one who left the generation around September of 2021, is Kipevu 2 or Savo Power. Those people have not decommissioned their plant up to now. And we were with them with the parliament. And I heard like they are trying to talk to the politicians so that it is not decommissioned and it is taken back, they are given another contract. Remember, it is not the cost of power per kilowatt hour that we have an issue with. It is the extra plant where the fuel cost can be used to be embezzled. So we wouldn't want to hear them. Remember, number two, the biggest power plants that use thermal is actually Rabai and Kipevu 3. They produce, I would say, more than 70% of all the others. You will find others like Gulf Power of Triumph Power, who produce about 2% of the contribution of thermal generators. Why should we keep on paying them the capacity charges for them to be on standby? I mean, we can survive without them. So those are the kind of people you say, those IPPs, if you try to get into their details, you remember even the Business Registration Service Registrar said that he cannot be able to give information about the ownership of those people. Right. I remember, I know he said he can give names, but not more than names or phone numbers. Right. But remember, it is a very securely guarded area where you cannot crack within those 6 IPPs. Okay. But unfortunately, the parliament keeps on calling all the 26 IPPs or selected ones, but the problem we have are with the 6 IPPs. Okay. Yes.
And you've mentioned the parliament and the session there, which you had a report to give in submissions. And one of the slides in that report, I'll have us patch that up. It shows the journey from the previous government to this government so far, how we've gotten to where we are. Yes. And as you explain that graph, because you remember it's slide 38. Yes. Why is electricity so expensive here in Kenya? Yes. How did we get here? Yes. And how do we compare on the continent?
On the continent. In 1974, electricity bill had 2 components. It had the energy charge or the consumption, then the government tax. 2 items. Today in Kenya, we've said instead of those 2 components, we now have 8. Consumption, fuel cost, forex, inflation, WARMA, EPRA, rural electrification, and VAT. Right. Those are 8. How many countries have such a complex bill? And how do you track each component? Yeah. Number 2, those components, especially the ones I have said, the WER, which is WARMA, EPRA, and rural electrification, never mind because they are only around 3% of the total bill. They might have been 5 now because they increased it, but that's not a big deal. But remember, the FFI is about 45 to 50% of a bill. Now, who contributes to this FFI? It's normally the fuel that is consumed by the IPPs. Of course, remember, even Kenyans have got 3 thermal generators. We are normally told of Kipevu 3, and then there is Kipevu 1, and then the Muhoroni gas turbine. You normally hear politicians saying, oh, we are going to get power cheaper because Muhoroni gas turbine is going to be switched off. It is a contract that has ended. Number 2, it's just a 50 megawatt plant. And we know it's because some of it was taken from Embakasi because it was retired. So they thought we can hide this one under there. So it's a very small portion of a bill that can be affected, maybe less than 0.1%. So let's not talk about those retiring. So the major ones we have from Kenyan are the 2, Kipevu 1 and Kipevu 3. And they said Kipevu 3 is the one that generates more. Okay. But now, if you look at now, those are if you add the 3 plus these 6, and they are now 5 because that one was retired in 2021 September. Those are the people who take 37% of the bill because of fuel cost. Now, let's come to Forex. Forex normally takes another like 7%. But who takes Forex? It is the IPPs, independent power producers, who has to be paid using dollars and euros. Mm-hmm. And we know where and they take 96% of the Forex collected from our bills. Mm. And then Kenyan takes 2% and Kenya Power takes 2%. So you can see where the problem is for us to keep on changing the dollar. And sometimes I say even that dollar, they are using it to defraud us because, like for example, in May, the dollar was, the exchange rate was at 1 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. In June, it doubled to 2.06. Really, even if the Kenya shillings was 140 shillings, did it become 280 shillings really for it to double? And remember, you have to multiply every coin or every shilling multiplied by 1 billion. So they collected an extra 1 billion from Forex. And I am sure that was not meant for Forex. Right. Remember, the fuel cost changed. You asked me, how did we come from the previous government? In January of 2021, in 2022, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, said, I have reduced, never mind I complained in a certain media house and I said that is not possible. But he did good because he said, I've reduced the cost of power by 15%. He maintained the FFI for 8 months during election.
Yeah.
Never mind, maybe it was just political anyway,
yeah.
Despite the changes in the thermal generation. But now what happened is the total was 4.63 kilowatt hours per Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. When the new government was sworn in, it reached a point where the fuel cost was 8.3 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. Now, if
coincidental?
It wasn't due to a formula or anything. In fact, the first change from August to September, they collected about 2 billion over and above. And it was not because of any generation change. I told you a formula that is being used. They need to tell us what did they do to the formula? What are the components that changed that were gazetted? So nothing changed in terms of the input.
What explains it?
Sorry?
What explains that change then, the money?
There is nothing that explains because we can only work with the formula. We know how to input the figures in the formula that have been gazetted, but they changed. Now, what happened in, so you can see that now that is the point at which Kenyans started complaining. What is happening to our bills? It's because now they loaded an extra like 5 shillings on top of the bill because they added forex, they added the fuel cost charge and inflation a bit.
Iyo pesa iende wapi?
I don't know how they get it to those people who are IPPs and how they get it back. That is not clear, but I can assure you, you cannot pay an IPP more money than they have generated. Then come to April of 2023, just the other day when they were changing the cost of power. They realized, okay, if you add FFI, right now we are at 11.3. So what do we do so that they don't feel the effect of increasing the base load, the money that goes to Kenya Power? So they reduce that money from 11.31 to 5.7, so that you don't feel it. Now, what is happening nowadays that you are hearing people complaining, the cost of fuel per kilowatt hour was taken from 8.3, it was brought down to 3.9. Now, it has started rising. We are now at 4.6. Okay. So, people are complaining, why is it more than the previous month and we don't expect the cost of power has changed according to Kenya Power? It's because of those variables that keep on changing. So, at one point, you realize that the cost of fuel is likely to be even 8 shillings per kilowatt hour. You add forex, and then you add inflation, and that total might still be, it has even been 15 in other governments.
Yes.
But at least the base load for Kenya Power was less. So expect that we are going to buy power in Kenya, even before we go to 2027, we are going to buy at 40 shillings per kilowatt.
So it's going higher?
It's going higher until we keep track of that formula that we are talking about. And the challenge we have is that the members of parliament, the energy committees, or experts who can come in, nobody wants to discuss about that formula. And they don't know about it. They have no idea what happens. So we are trying to tell them all the time that, can you come here? Can we check this together?
Yeah.
They need to do that.
I'm no politician, I'm no pundit politically, but from what you have explained with quite some competence is, there seems to be a political formula.
Yes.
That was applied.
There is the official formula, then there is a political formula, where you say, we need 3 extra billion from Kenya Power, or from the collection. And you see, I said Kenya Power will not touch that money. It's a pass-through cost. So how it is managed after that is not their business. In fact, they even make laws even after collecting all that money, and they're not given a cent.
Right.
Yes.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta
yes.
made some efforts, and this we did some digging up to see if we can give credit to his regime.
Yeah.
And he even appointed a task force to review Kenya Power's purchase agreements, and if you look back in hindsight, is the fact that these efforts failed a testament to it being an impossible task to tame the price of electricity?
It was impossible. We were also consulted by the team led by John Gumi. We told them, you are telling us that Kenya Power is losing about 23%. They tell them, that's why I said they didn't get an expert. They were expecting that those losses would be reduced to 0 because they didn't understand whether it must happen. So you first say, if you reduce 23 to 0, you have 23%. Then they said, if you look at the corruption around the procurement of Kenya Power, you can reduce another 10. You see, now, we came and told them, and I said in the media, that is not possible. So when Uhuru Kenyatta was told we can reduce by that 3%, he was very happy. But I was quick to say, that's not possible. Remember, EPRA was not there. Kenya Power was not there in that inquiry. So they were also happy when we said the truth. But now he was told, because you had promised Kenyans, and it's just around the time that you need to support someone to be the president, they don't need to look like they are following your steps. So you have to maintain this power at that cost for a given time. Remember, he announced in September that year that he's going to reduce by 33%. And in several tranches of, I think, 10 or something. We reached in December, so we came to January 2nd. I went to the media and I said, you think that is possible? Why have they not managed to do it? So then he was told, hey, it's a bit going to be messy here, so just do something. He told people, you are in Raleigh, you are in this other place. We need to see a way in which we can get together some money, which was 26 billion, so that we can bail out Kenya Power so that at least they give this reduction. But as we do that, it is up to a certain point, and remember, they didn't even pay that money. Because it's just the same way we are saying there was some subsidy in fuel, but that money was not paid. It is being paid by this government. So even for power, that was the same problem. So remember, when he was doing that, Kenya Power, we were together and in this discussion that they are not able to maintain their operations, they need an increment of 20%. Then you have come here and you have reduced by that 3%. We saw that is not possible. So now, that's what we are saying. Kenya Power, with their cost, they could not manage that, and they had to increase by that amount. So then if you bring a discussion that he reduced by that 3%, I mean, the president was told it's not going to be possible. So when the new president came in, Dr. William Ruto, he came and was told about the whole issue. And because he had a lot of promise in making the cost of power cheaper, he realized that, okay, the reality is this. You know, sometimes politicking is different from the reality. He was told, you have come, yes, this is the issue. So now the issue is that you can't be able to survive with Kenya Power if they don't get this increment. So what did he initiate? An increment in April. But then, that is opposite of what he had promised. Yeah. He then started saying that, oh, Muhoroni gas turbine is going to be shut down, we are going to get the power cheaper. If we did our own calculation using data, we can tell that it has zero contribution. Unless you say Kipevu 2 and Rabai has been shut off, we are going to have a significant reduction in cost of power. Right. But I don't know whether we are going to reach there, because that is not what the politicians are discussing. They don't have data even in the inquiries they are doing. So I am not sure where they are going to end, because it is not going anywhere. Right. Unless they get experts within those teams so that they can ask what is the data and what does the data tell us. Otherwise, you'll keep on calling people who owns this company, who are the directors, we need their names, what are their accounts. That is not value adding at all. Just tell them, even if you are the owner, this is what we want. Right. That is what is value adding.
So to call it what it is, it will take more than political declarations to bring the cost down, because you have followed what has been said from the previous government. Yes. Through to an election when there's a lot of promises made to this current government, new government, not new now, almost a year in. And it seems for the Kenyan watching or listening, they have to go beyond what the president says in a roadside declaration for us to see a change in the cost for power.
It will not.
Ama kuna kitu anaweza sema. The president speaks, and it's done.
In fact, I'm not even looking at the president speaking. I'm just looking at the registrators. So they say, we have found that this is the issue. And you see, it's a different arm from the executive, even from the judiciary. So they'll just go and say, we have made a law that we have realized that the IPPs that are using DAMO are the parasites within this system. So we have made this declaration. If they need to be paid or not, we have decided that we have set aside this as the exit package for them. And then we go and harness more geothermal. Because, Mark, let me tell you, we have harnessed geothermal of around 900 megawatt. Yes. We have a reservation of 10,000 megawatt. Why do we need to keep 600 megawatt of thermal? And mind you, we only utilize about 23% of that. They only give us 12%. Much as they have that installation, they only give us 12% of the total generation in the country. Much as they talk of that it assists in peak loads and all that, even geothermal can get wellheads that can easily kick at the same time. So there is no reason there.
We can do without them.
We can do without those thermal turbines. I can tell you, if they ask me, I can structure a way in which that can be achieved.
All right.
It's not everybody in this country or in this world that uses, I mean, even if you have solar in your house, do you have a backup generator and you still have power? So it's just a cartel that doesn't want to exit this stage. And it's going to take time. Some of them even have I think the contract will be ending in 2035 or something. Are we going to live with such a parasite? We just have to do something. We still have, there are some that are likely to be expired, their contract. But remember, their job is being taken up by the rest, because if your utilization is 23%, when one exists, you start generating 33% or 40%.
Okay.
So we can actually do with 2 for a start, just 2 turbines in the whole country for a start, because we know the problems where we have Mombasa doesn't have very good grid strength for us to take power from geothermal to Mombasa. Yes. So we can at least allow that, say, Rabai and Kipef3 can run. But why should we have Vika Power, Triumph Power, and the rest who are around Nairobi? We don't need to have that.
Okay.
Yes.
And to the question of how we compare to the other countries in the continent.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is number 2.
Yes.
And that shouldn't sound like a good thing, but number 2 in terms of the high cost of electricity. I believe there's even a table to that in one of the submissions.
Cape Verde is number 1.
Cape Verde is number 1. Yes. Explain that we are number 2 on the continent.
Yes.
In terms of the high cost of electricity.
In terms of the highest cost of electricity for domestic users.
Yes.
Just to surprise you a little bit, Kenya has a very high connectivity. Let me talk of Niger. Niger has got a connection of, I think, 17%. South Africa, we are almost at par, because we are doing better in terms of urban connectivity, because we are 100% in urban.
Okay.
South Africa is, I think, at 96. For rural, we are at 65. South Africa maybe is doing a little bit better. But remember, after that connection, they messed up the power planning, and that's why they are having a problem, because of they are doing, they are shutting off system at one point.
Yes.
Kenya has got 88% of renewable energy. 88%. Now, if it is 88%, why is it expensive? I know South Africa is doing 85%, but much of it is coal. 88% of thermal, but much of it is coal. We have not said that we can't survive with coal if diesel is hurting us, or HFO, or heavy fuel oil. So now, the cost of power in Kenya is not because that generating power in Kenya is expensive. Mind you, you even get power from, on average, from Kenyan at 5.8 shillings. But now, and the Kenya Power is able to pay them. So the other costs that are building up to more than 12 shillings is where we need to look at. Why does the government have to collect everything? And then, remember, even, for example, let me talk of EPRA. EPRA is a government agency, isn't it? Now, if it is a government agency, it should get its money from VAT, isn't it? If it is rural electrification program, it should get money from VAT. But the government, you ask it, where do you take the 16%? Because rural electrification, we are funding separately. Yeah. If it is Warma, we are funding separately. If all those components are funded separately, until you wonder, the 16% is for doing what exactly? That is what other governments are doing. Remember, a country like Ethiopia does not tax. And additional to that, it even subsidizes. Now, the cost of power in Ethiopia, you'll be worried. It is 4 shillings per kilowatt hour. Then you ask yourself, why didn't Aliko Dangote come to Kenya and found it not suitable to put up his cement plant in Kenya, and he went to Ethiopia? It's because the cost of production of cement, bulk of it is electricity cost.
Yes.
So if you see that this electricity cost is not stable, it keeps on fluctuating, and then it is actually at around 20 shillings, and then you have a neighbor who has 4 shillings, where do you take your business? That is where so it is actually killing a lot of investment in this country. Right. And many people are shutting down because of the same.
As the Energy Consumer Society of Kenya, just tell us some of the common complaints and cases that you handle on behalf of either individuals or companies.
Oh.
So people understand what you do.
I will start with 2 industrial. I have a case that I'm trying to deal with that is for the biggest investor, and I really pity him because he's my friend. He's the owner of Devki. He pays more than 900 million every month. 900 million.
Sorry, what?
It's just 0.9 billion every month.
Okay.
Now, he set up a new plant in Samburu near Mariakani.
Yes.
And it has been running for the last around 1 year. Only 2 months, the system was set up. He was connected with very high voltage from the generating points, I think is Rabai or something. So he has been dropped at 132 kV, kilovolts. That's quite high. Now, the way he set the system, Kenya Power, there are some parameters Kenya Power is supposed to inform you that you are not faring well in terms of these parameters. So we are going to penalize you.
Okay.
So he ran for 2 months. Then all the other months he has been penalized. The latest bill, leave alone this one, the previous month's bill, he had a power factor surcharge of 9 million when his Kenya Power bill was 30 million. I mean, 30% has gone to penalties. Those penalties is something that we can actually tell him what to do very easily, or we do for him. But this year alone, he has lost 52 million. Yet Kenya Power know that. That is their client who is very highly regarded, but they have not found a reason to assist him.
Yeah.
Number two, that is one client. There is another client. The water companies are suffering a lot. I have 2 clients that are water companies, one in Kiambu County. Those people has been billed by Kenya Power. Because of bill estimation, sometimes you are paying 250,000 per month. Then you realize you've been billed with like 4 million. Then you ask them, my friends, I have been paying 250,000. What is happening? Then they tell you, we have not been reading the meter. We've been approximating, but now we have actually read it, and we have seen that we have been underestimating. Then you have to ask yourself, what is the rate that you are going to charge now? This, because maybe you would have read a time when the cost of power was 15 shillings, but now it's 25. You want me to pay using this rate? So that is another complaint that we are having. And it is actually all water companies in this, all of them, they are having that challenge. And we are trying to curb those problems. We'll be having a meeting with the MD Kenya Power to discuss of the same.
Yeah.
Because we know they are suffering. You will see that, again, people like WARMA, Water Resource Management Authority, want to increase their cost. They have been collecting from Kenya Power bills around 20 million per month. They now want it to be 2 billion. They are multiplying by 100 times. I realize the registrators do not have information about it.
Yeah.
If you ask yourself, have you ever seen Warma come around? What do they exactly do? You know, so for them to increase that, in fact, they propose that they are going to be charging 5 shillings per meter cubed of domestic usage from 0.5. Is that, I mean, from 0.05, 5 cents. They now want to charge 5 shillings. Based on what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that has also, is going to kill all the water. That has not even happened despite the challenges they have as water companies. But if that is actually, if that cost is going to be approved, then they are all dead.